Hey everyone, and welcome back to Oral Stories. If you're here for another dose of chills, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and drop a comment below, it really helps me out. If you're new, catch up on the previous parts of this terrifying urban exploration, things are getting intense. And for those of you who've been with us, get ready, because it's only going to get worse from here. The blood. It pulsed in the beam of our flashlights, a sickeningly vibrant red against the dull steel of the processing table. It was undeniably fresh. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the sudden, horrifying silence that had fallen over us. The metallic tang in the air, which I had initially tried to dismiss, now seemed to solidify into a presence, heavy and suffocating. What is that?" Maya whispered, her voice trembling. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with a fear I recognized, because it mirrored my own. Liam, usually the calmest among us, was visibly shaken. He took a hesitant step back from the table. "That wasn't there before," he stated, his voice a strained whisper. "We just checked this table." Sam, despite his earlier bravado, looked utterly terrified. His hand was no longer casually resting on his wrench. It gripped it tightly, knuckles white. "Footsteps," he muttered, almost to himself. "I told you I heard footsteps. Someone's in here with us." Chloe, who had been meticulously framing a shot of the old tools just moments before, now stood frozen, her camera hanging uselessly from her neck. Her gaze was fixed on the bloodstain, a look of dawning horror on her face. But, why would someone be here? And leave that? The implications were chilling. This wasn't some homeless person squatting, or another urban explorer. This felt deliberate. And dangerous. The "condemned for a reason" warning from the old man at the gas station screamed in my head. "We need to get out of here," Maya said, her voice rising in panic. "Now. This isn't right." I agreed with her completely. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But something else, a morbid curiosity, or perhaps just sheer disbelief, kept me rooted to the spot. "Wait," I said, my voice barely steady. "Let's just check the perimeter of this room. See if there are any other signs. We need to know if we're alone, or if someone actually just walked out of here." It was a terrible decision, born of adrenaline and a desperate need for answers. We moved slowly, our flashlights sweeping the vast, shadowy room. Every creak of the old building, every scuttling sound, made us jump. The air grew colder, and the metallic smell intensified, making my stomach churn. Suddenly, a sharp, metallic clang echoed from the far end of the room, near where a series of large, rusting refrigeration units stood. It sounded like something heavy had been dropped. "What was that?" Chloe gasped, spinning around. "It came from over there," Liam said, pointing his powerful beam towards the sound. Without thinking, Sam, ever the protector, despite his fear, started moving towards the noise. "Hello?" he called out, his voice cracking slightly. "Is anyone there?" "Sam, no." I yelled, but it was too late. He was already halfway across the room, his flashlight beam bouncing frantically. Then, just as quickly as it had appeared, Sam's flashlight beam vanished. One moment it was there, a frantic beacon, the next, utter darkness. A guttural cry, cut short, ripped through the air, followed by the sickening thud of a heavy body hitting the concrete floor. "Sam!" I screamed, my voice raw with terror. The silence that followed was even more horrifying than the scream. My blood ran cold. Chloe let out a whimpering sob. Maya clung to my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Liam, his face stark white in the beam of his own flashlight, raised his drone, but it was too dark, too disorienting. "We need to find him." Liam yelled, his voice laced with panic. "Sam! Answer me!" No response. Only the chilling echo of our own desperate cries. He's gone, Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. They took him. No. I shouted, shaking my head, refusing to believe it. We stick together. We find him. Everyone, flashlights on, spread out. Don't go too far. Chloe, you and Maya, stay with me. Liam, you take the other side of the room. We meet back at the table in 5 minutes. Yell if you see anything, or hear anything. It was a bad idea. A truly, catastrophically bad idea. Splitting up was the cardinal sin of every horror movie, every urban exploration rulebook. But in that moment of blind panic and desperate hope, it felt like our only chance to cover ground quickly and find Sam. We were disoriented, terrified, and operating on pure adrenaline. We were no longer explorers, we were prey. I gripped Maya's hand tightly, my flashlight sweeping frantically through the oppressive darkness. Chloe moved cautiously beside us, her face a mask of terror. Every shadow seemed to move, every faint sound seemed to be the rustle of an unseen presence. The metallic smell was now overwhelming, and something else, something sweet and cloying, like rotting meat and something else indefinable, filled the air, making me gag. Then, just as we neared the back wall, near a series of large, rusty hooks hanging from an ancient conveyor system, I heard it. A faint, wet dripping sound. Drip, drip, drip. My flashlight beam found the source. It was a metal chute, wide and dark, disappearing into the floor below. And from its mouth, a viscous, dark liquid was slowly oozing, forming a small, glistening puddle on the concrete. It was red. Dark, murky red. And as I brought my flashlight closer, focusing on the puddle, my breath caught in my throat. Amongst the swirling darkness of the liquid, caught on a stray piece of grit, was something small, white, and unmistakably shaped. A tooth. A human tooth. The sight of the tooth, gleaming sickly white in the dark, viscous liquid oozing from the chute, sent a cold wave of nausea through me. My mind reeled. A human tooth. Here. In an abandoned slaughterhouse. And the liquid, it was too dark to be just blood, too thick, but it was unmistakably, horribly, organic. The stench from the chute was overwhelming now, a combination of iron, decay, and something else, something uniquely foul that seemed to stick to the back of my throat. Oh my God, Maya choked, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes fixed on the horrifying sight. Chloe stumbled backward, nearly dropping her camera, a silent scream frozen on her face. Just then, Liam's voice, strained and panicked, echoed from across the room. Alex. Guys. I found something. Oh God, no. His voice cut off abruptly, replaced by a guttural roar that wasn't human, a sound of pure, unadulterated rage, followed by a sickening wet thud and a heavy dragging noise. My blood ran cold. Liam. Liam. I screamed, pulling Maya and Chloe after me, scrambling through the darkness towards the direction of his voice. My flashlight beam danced wildly, picking out fleeting glimpses of rusted machinery and dark corners. The dragging sound grew louder, a heavy, scraping noise, like something huge being pulled across the rough concrete. We burst into a larger, more open section of the processing plant. My flashlight landed on a horrific tableau. There, in the dim light filtering through the grime-streaked skylights, stood a figure. A hulking, massive man, easily 6.5 feet tall, built like a brick wall. He was wearing what looked like a faded, blood-splattered butcher's apron, and on his head, obscuring his face entirely, was a crude, terrifying mask fashioned from what looked like stitched-together animal hide, with empty, gaping eyeholes that seemed to stare into my very soul. And he was dragging something. Or someone. My flashlight beam moved down, and my stomach churned with revulsion. He held a massive, wicked-looking meat hook in one hand, the tip of it buried deep in the leg of what was clearly a human body. It was Liam. His eyes were wide, unseeing, a silent scream forever etched on his face. The butcher moved with an unnatural, almost practiced ease, dragging Liam's lifeless body towards a set of massive, rusting double doors at the far end of the room. The dragging sound was the hook scraping against the floor. He moved with a chilling efficiency, like this was routine. Like he had done this countless times before. He wasn't searching for us, he was simply continuing his macabre work. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't an abandoned plant. It was a hunting ground. And we were the prey. Fear, cold and absolute, seized me. My breath hitched in my throat. Maya let out a strangled gasp, and Chloe made a choked, whimpering sound. The butcher, as I instantly named him in my mind, paused. His head, with the horrific mask, slowly turned. Even without seeing his eyes, I felt his gaze sweeping over us, a predatory focus. He had heard us. He knew we were there. Run! I screamed, shoving Maya and Chloe forward, my voice raw with terror. Run! Go! Now! We turned and ran, blindly, fueled by sheer, primal terror. Every step echoed in the vast, dark space. I could hear the heavy thud of the butcher's footsteps behind us, surprisingly fast for such a large man. The rhythmic SCHHHK thump of his hook dragging on the concrete, punctuated by his heavy breathing, was the most terrifying sound I had ever heard. He was gaining on us. We burst through a doorway into another large room, a vast, echoing space that seemed to be filled with more rusted machinery. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, searching desperately for an exit. There had to be an exit. This way! Chloe cried, pointing to a narrow opening between two towering, silent processing machines. It looked like a gap in a wall of metal giants. We scrambled through, pushing past rusty levers and tangled wires. The butcher's roar filled the room behind us, a sound of frustrated rage. We were faster, but this was his territory. He knew every dark corner, every shadow, every hidden path. As we squeezed through another tight space, a sudden, blinding pain exploded in my side. I cried out, stumbling. It felt like something had ripped into my flesh. I fell, my flashlight clattering away into the darkness, leaving me disoriented. The metallic smell was now overwhelming, and a burning pain spread from my side. Alex! Maya shrieked, her voice filled with despair. I pushed myself up, my hand going to my side. My fingers came away wet and sticky. Blood. But the pain wasn't from a blade. It felt more like a deep cut from jagged metal. I must have caught myself on something. As I struggled to regain my footing, a dark shape loomed out of the shadows, blocking the narrow path behind us. The butcher. He was there, closer than ever. He raised his hook, and in the dim light, I saw the glint of sharpened metal. Go! Don't stop! I yelled, pushing Maya and Chloe forward again, using what little strength I had left. They hesitated for a split second, then, with desperate cries, they disappeared around the corner, into the deeper darkness of the plant. I pushed myself against the cold, grimy wall, my breath coming in ragged gasps, trying to disappear into the shadows. The butcher moved past me, not even noticing my presence in his single-minded pursuit. He was going after Maya and Chloe. His heavy footsteps, followed by the sickening scrape of his hook, faded into the distance. I was alone. Lying there, bleeding, hidden in the shadows of a place that was anything but abandoned. The sounds of pursuit died down, replaced by a chilling silence. Had he caught them? Had they escaped? I didn't know. All I knew was that I was trapped, injured, and utterly alone in a monster's lair. The metallic smell was now mixed with the coppery tang of my own blood. This was no longer an exploration. This was a hunt. And I was the one being hunted. The thought of what they did here, what that bloody shoot was for, what the tooth meant, sent a fresh wave of terror through me. Would I be next to be processed? My mind raced, trying to formulate a plan, any plan, to survive. But how do you escape an unseen horror in its own horrifying home?